Does this mean that we could find an interim deal, or is it too soon to tell?
Well, I think it certainly adds to this emerging case, Francine, that both sides are now willing to show a bit of goodwill to each other. And as our colleagues in Washington reported last night, that perhaps there is a bit of a push towards some kind of an interim deal stroke prolonged truce right now. So this move on China's side that's just been announced in the last hour or so does indicate China's willing to come to the table, at least on the agricultural product side of things. They are willing to buy more goods. They are willing to exempt it from additional tariffs on soybean and pork. And that's got to be a big get for the US farmers who've been caught up in the middle of this US-China trade war.
So, and will that be enough to actually then, in a couple of months, if not a couple of weeks, have a formal deal?
Well, it certainly would, on face value, bode well for the talks that are supposed to be happening this month at kind of a lower official level, Francine, and building into talks at the Vice Premier level and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin and Trade Representative Lighthizer next month. So it certainly does suggest positive mood music, and perhaps they're moving towards some kind of a middle ground. But remember here, we're talking about some exemptions on some products, perhaps repurchasing or increasing purchases of agricultural goods, but we haven't yet solved these big picture problems around China's industrial strategy that the US complains about, and of course China wants the US to remove all tariffs immediately, which is the US claims is their key source of leverage. So I think there's still a long way to go here yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it seems like we're back to square one after a ballet of 1 year. Tell me, buried in the Bloomberg story this morning, is intellectual copyright and intellectual rights. Does China in any way link the intellectual copyright debate and technology debate to pork or to soybeans?
Well, certainly what they have done, Tom, is China would argue, they've made some progress on the IP front. They have flagged some prosecutions that they've pushed through. They passed a law earlier this year to protect IP. And publicly, officials have said it's in their own interests to have greater IP protection, which spurs greater innovation and the advancement of technology in their economy. But there's no doubt that, we spoke earlier about shifting mood music, and to your point about what's happening with pork prices, China's economy is under pressure on some fronts. Manufacturers are feeling pain. Pork prices are going through the roof. That's hurting consumers. So there are those who will say there's a case to be made for both China and the US to cut a deal to take pressure off their respective economies.